There has been a lot of debate recently about tariffs, trade laws, and their impact on the US economy. Supporters argue that these policies will strengthen domestic industries, create jobs, and reduce reliance on foreign competitors. Critics, however, warn that these measures could lead to rising costs, inflation, and economic stagnation. Some even suggest that these policies, if mishandled, could be a trigger for a full-blown recession. But what does history tell us? Have past trade policies led to economic prosperity, or have they backfired? To truly understand the potential impact of these new tariffs, we need to cut through the speculation and look at real data, past economic shifts, and expert analysis. Let's break it all down, fact by fact. What is a recession? Before we analyze how current trade policies might influence the economy, it is important to understand what a recession actually is. A recession is most commonly defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline in gross domestic product, or GDP, but that is not the only factor economists consider when determining a recession. Several other key indicators can signal economic decline. Rising unemployment. Businesses start cutting jobs due to lower demand, leading to financial strain for households. Declining consumer spending. When people lose confidence in the economy, they hold back on major purchases, slowing overall growth. Falling industrial production. Manufacturing and factory output decline as demand weakens, impacting supply chains and business revenue. Stock market instability. Uncertainty in economic policies can cause investors to pull back, leading to market fluctuations and reduced investment in businesses. Throughout history, the United States has experienced several major recessions, each with different causes but similar economic effects. The Great Depression from 1929 to 1939 was triggered by a stock market crash and widespread bank failures, made worse by the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, which raised tariffs on imports and severely reduced global trade. The 1970s stagflation recession was a rare economic crisis marked by both high inflation and slow growth, largely fueled by the oil embargo and global supply shocks that drove up costs across industries. The 2008 financial crisis saw a massive collapse in the housing market, leading to bank failures, corporate bailouts, and a prolonged economic downturn that took years to recover from. The COVID-19 recession in 2020 resulted from a sudden and sharp economic shutdown due to the global pandemic, causing record job losses, widespread business closures, and major disruptions to supply chains. But how much influence do trade policies actually have in causing recessions? To answer that, we need to examine past shifts in tariffs and global trade policies and see what happened next. Historical trade shifts and economic impact. Trade policies have the power to shape economies for decades, but their long-term effects are often unpredictable. Some policies have led to economic expansion, while others have exacerbated downturns. Let's examine some of the most significant trade shifts in history and the lessons they provide. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 dramatically raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods, aiming to protect American industries during the Great Depression. However, it backfired. Other countries retaliated with their own tariffs, leading to a sharp decline in global trade. Businesses struggled to sell goods internationally, worsening unemployment and deepening the Great Depression. It became a textbook example of how protectionist trade policies can sometimes have unintended negative consequences. NAFTA, established in 1994, and the USMCA, which took effect in 2020, played pivotal roles in shaping North American trade. The North American Free Trade Agreement eliminated many trade barriers between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, lowering costs and expanding supply chains across the region. This agreement contributed to economic growth, but, well, it also led to the outsourcing of some US manufacturing jobs. In 2020, NAFTA was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. This new agreement maintained many of NAFTA's provisions, but introduced stronger labor protections and new rules for auto manufacturing to encourage domestic production. Trump's China tariffs, implemented between 2018 and 2020, marked a significant escalation in the US-China trade war. These tariffs were imposed on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods, targeting industries like technology, agriculture, and manufacturing. The goal, of course, was to protect US businesses from unfair competition. However, the tariffs also raised costs for American importers and consumers. Some industries, like steel and aluminum, did benefit from reduced competition, but many companies reliant on Chinese imports faced rising expenses. The uncertainty caused by these policies disrupted supply chains and led to a slowdown in global trade growth. The Brexit trade shift, beginning in 2016 and continuing to the present, marked one of the most significant trade shifts in modern history. The United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union introduced new trade barriers, customs delays, and regulatory changes, creating uncertainty for businesses. The UK faced slower economic growth and disruptions in trade partnerships, highlighting how abrupt shifts in trade policies can impact even well-developed economies. The Japan-US trade war of the 1980s saw rising trade tensions between the United States and Japan, leading to policies aimed at reducing the US trade deficit and pressuring Japan to open its markets. While some agreements helped balance trade, they also contributed to shifts in global supply chains and the long-term decline of certain American manufacturing sectors. This period showcased how trade policies can force economies to adapt, but often at the cost of job displacement and industry shifts. As history shows, trade policies can be a double-edged sword. While they may be designed to protect domestic industries, they can also lead to higher costs, retaliatory tariffs, and economic disruptions if not carefully managed. So, how do today's new tariffs and trade policies compare? Could they have a similar impact on the US economy? Today, we are witnessing a new wave of trade policies that could reshape key industries in the United States. The government has imposed or expanded tariffs on a wide range of goods, with both intended and unintended consequences. These policies are designed to protect domestic industries, but could also increase costs for businesses and consumers. Here is a look at some of the most significant tariff categories and their potential impact. Steel and aluminum. Higher tariffs on these essential materials have boosted domestic steel and aluminum production, but have also raised costs for manufacturers that rely on imported metals. This includes industries like construction, automotive, and aerospace, where material costs play a major role in pricing. Technology and semiconductors. Tariffs on semiconductors and electronic components are aimed at reducing reliance on Chinese imports, particularly in high-tech sectors. While this could encourage domestic semiconductor production, it also disrupts global supply chains and makes certain electronics more expensive for consumers and businesses. Automobiles and parts. Higher tariffs on imported vehicles and car parts could protect American automakers, but at the same time increase the price of new cars. Consumers may face higher costs, and industries that depend on imported parts, like auto repair shops, could see profit margins shrink. Agricultural goods. The agriculture sector has been one of the most impacted by international trade disputes. Many countries retaliate against US tariffs by imposing their own tariffs on American farm exports. making it harder for US farmers to sell products abroad. This has led to financial strain for many farmers, particularly those producing soybeans, dairy and pork. Textiles and consumer goods. Everyday products such as clothing, footwear and household goods are facing increased tariffs, leading to higher prices for American consumers. Retailers relying on imported inventory may struggle to absorb the additional costs, resulting in price hikes and lower sales. Who wins and who loses? While tariffs are meant to protect certain industries, they often create a mix of winners and losers across the economy. Winners, US manufacturers, gain an advantage as they face less competition from foreign imports. Some industries see new investment due to trade barriers, making local production more attractive. National security benefits as the country becomes less reliant on foreign suppliers, particularly in strategic sectors like technology and defense. The government collects more tariff revenue, which can be used for public spending or economic relief programs. Losers. Businesses relying on global supply chains must absorb higher costs, which can reduce profit margins or lead to layoffs. Consumers will likely pay more for imported goods, increasing the cost of living and potentially driving inflation. US exporters are hit hard when other countries retaliate with tariffs on American-made products, limiting global market access. Retailers and wholesalers that depend on imports face shrinking profits, which can lead to store closures or job losses. The big question now is, will these policies strengthen the economy or push it toward a slowdown? Could these policies trigger a US recession? While tariffs alone do not determine the fate of an economy, they can act as a significant economic force that contributes to slower growth, rising costs, and uncertainty. Trade policies influence both short-term economic stability and long-term business strategy, which in turn affects overall economic health. Here are some key risks associated with increased tariffs. Higher costs equal inflation pressure. When businesses are forced to pay more for raw materials and imported goods, those costs eventually get passed down to consumers. This can lead to a general rise in prices, contributing to inflation and reducing purchasing power. Supply chain disruptions can also occur. Tariffs can disrupt well-established supply chains, making it harder for businesses to source necessary components efficiently. This slows production, increases logistical costs, and can create delays in manufacturing and deliveries. Retaliation from trade partners is another risk. Many US companies rely on selling their products overseas. If trading partners impose retaliatory tariffs, American exports become less competitive, hurting industries like agriculture, technology, and manufacturing. Reduced business confidence is also a concern. Economic uncertainty surrounding trade policies can lead businesses to delay major investments, hiring, and expansion plans. If companies feel unsure about future costs and supply chain stability, they are less likely to spend and grow, slowing down overall economic momentum. Rising interest rates. If tariffs lead to inflation, the Federal Reserve may respond by raising interest rates to control price increases. Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive for businesses and consumers, which can slow down spending, housing markets, and overall economic growth. Market volatility. Investors closely watch trade policy shifts. Sudden changes in tariffs can create uncertainty in financial markets, causing stock market swings. This affects not just investors, but also consumer confidence, as people tend to spend less when markets are unstable. Is the US economy strong enough to withstand these risks? Despite these challenges, the US economy remains resilient in many ways. Consumer spending is still strong, which fuels economic activity. Job growth continues, with businesses adapting to changing trade conditions. Technological innovation and shifting supply chain strategies could help businesses adjust and reduce long-term reliance on imports. The big question is whether businesses and consumers can absorb the short-term impact of tariffs, or if these policies will slow down economic growth to the point of recession. The answer may depend on how long these policies remain in place and how industries adapt over time. Final thoughts. So, will tariffs help or hurt the US economy? The reality is far from simple. While some industries gain protection and see increased investment, others face rising costs, supply chain challenges, and potential job losses. The real test will be how businesses and consumers adapt, whether these policies strengthen domestic industries over time or push the economy toward a downturn. Trade policies have far-reaching consequences, and history shows us that their impact is rarely predictable. Could we see another major economic shift? Could these policies drive inflation higher? Or will they lead to a more self-sufficient economy? Now, we want to hear from you. Are tariffs a necessary move to protect American jobs, or do they risk economic decline? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown useful, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And as always, sources are listed in the description below for those who want to dive deeper. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.